Welcome back to the Rollup. We are your hosts. I'm Andy.
I'm Robbie, and this is your home to learn from the biggest guests, the brightest minds at the tip of innovation.
Our goal is to help spread the collective knowledge of everyone in our community.
We are breaking crypto out of its echo chamber and taking it to the real world.
Alrighty, guys, welcome back to the Rollup TV. We've got Ram and Eowyn on today to talk about the intersection of consumer applications, wallet interfaces, and of course, AI. Looking forward to this conversation. Coming off the news yesterday from Coinbase's big push. There's a lot of competition, a lot of fun stuff happening in the consumer wallet, consumer app space. And I think a lot of people are getting onboarded to the space as of now. Market's hot. So guys, excited for you guys to be here. Let's just do a quick round of intros and how you guys are feeling about the markets. Ram, why don't we start with you, man? Welcome back.
Thanks, man. This is Ram. One of the core contributors at Open Ledger. Market's pretty wild. Glad to see some green charts. I'm one of the core contributors here. We build enabling basically AI to be much more transparent. We're a blockchain specific for enabling users to contribute data and build AI models. And we want to reward people for contributing data. And we've been building the space over the last 2 years. Personally, I've been in the space from 2017. And started as a blockchain R&D company, worked with a lot of enterprises, including like Walmart, many more brands as well. And then Open Ledger was an incubation, which now is an end-to-end protocol that is enabling more than 20 plus projects to build AI models. We do work with, again, enterprises as well. We work with Walmart, we work with Dubai Tax Authority and many more brands as well. And we are also going to work with Trust Wallet. So I'm glad to be here and talking with you guys on this.
Sweet.
Cool. Eowyn, so I'm from Trust Wallet. Right now, we're the largest mobile wallet at the moment. We have about more than 200 million downloads globally for the past 7 years. And then from the active wallet perspective on mobile, we're also right now the biggest globally out there. So it's definitely right now a very interesting time. There are a lot more experiments happening in the consumer side for how to further onboard more users into our crypto space. General macro environment are very much supportive. And glad to see the green charts as well. Hopefully, every elements are pointing to the right environment that we can get some good growth for the mass adoption in our industry.
Definitely. And I've been loving the pudgy penguins that you guys have been rocking on Twitter and promoting. Those are quite the engagement hack. It's good to have you guys both here. And actually, I want to start this conversation with a phenomenon that's been happening that I think a lot of people are starting to become accustomed to, which is this idea around, kind of distribution in our space being very, very important and ultimately king of, user interactions, user relationships. And I think this also ties into some of these, ChatGPT-esque interfaces and kind of LLMs that I think we'll be able to get into today. And so, and when you guys have built Trust Wallet, you guys have been around for quite some time, and you've seen, the progression from this kind of fat protocol thesis, right? A lot of value accruing to these different L1s using the same type of wallets, Trust Wallets, etc. Moving towards applications, and now even moving all the way out to the end of the stack to what some are calling this kind of fat wallet thesis, where those who own the user onboarding can then kind of verticalize, bring swaps, bring perps, bring trading, NFT, different types of social-fi interactions, all into the place where people onboard originally. And so this has really become a prominent view of a lot of investors and believers in this space. And so, I'm curious from your perspective, from Trust Wallet's perspective, how you guys are seeing this play out from your user data, and just kind of what you're seeing from the, ownership of users, why that's valuable, and how you've kind of grown your product suite to be able to accommodate more and more things to keep people in Trust Wallet, keep them active, and be a part of your core product suite.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that the narrative is often taking different sides, but to be honest, by being in the industry so much, you realize that different value chain does create different values, and they take the different values. It's it looks very promising that if you own the user relationship, that you can seem to be taking a bigger cut or more values with the users. But people also, you often underestimate how hard it is to do retail user businesses. A lot of the customer support, a lot higher liability from the security concerns. And then this is a whole level different kind of mental stress game to some extent. Comparing to if you say, hey, I can be a really good niche, beautiful product, and I would just say that Hyperliquid is a classic example, right? I'm going really vertically niche in this area, and I can do really well. And then if we're serving the retail users, and then we have to be super adaptive because people want all different things all the time. Then sometimes you might not necessarily have a very fixed roadmap. So that, hey, I'm gonna do A, and then market changes, industry growing. These are all positive things. So you'll be like you're scrapping all your roadmap and trying to do product B. So if you're actually user focused, that's you want to do. But to a lot of the builders, being able to change all the time is really, really hard. So I think it's just from the practitioner's perspective, grass is always greener. Like infrastructure builder feels like, oh, if you're on the application side or the user interface side, then this is a lot cooler. Maybe we'll feel the same way. But the reason why I'm in this product and why I'm doing this business is I think fundamentally it just matters to me that accruing value to users and humans is one of the most rewarding and valuable thing. And in that front, being the UI for the industry, right? Like being the face, being the user experiences, it carries a lot of blame, carries a lot of opportunities, but ultimately we do have a direct relationship with the users, and that to a lot of the extent is because of our values that we cherish it, and then it's doing great. From the business side, doesn't mean that all the values accrue to the front end. It's not always the same. I would just be very honest, right? So, and that should be the case, because if the whole value chain, just certain parts are getting a lot more value versus the other, just like a human, if your left leg is way stronger than your right leg, then you're not gonna walk very well as a grown-up. So I actually think that being a bit fair across the value chain and do the things together so that every part of the muscles as a collective framework can grow together is way more important. But of course, I love the thesis that it's a fat wallet. Like everybody would love to be feeling important, and then good to see that's kind of happening to the front end side.
Introducing Asset Runes, the future of decentralized finance. Stablecoins natively on Bitcoin. Hedge against volatility. Diversify your portfolio. All directly from your Bitcoin wallet. Secured by ZK technology. This is Asset Runes. Available now, exclusively on Starknet. Yeah. Ram, I'm curious from your perspective if you feel similarly with the evolution of some of the AI tools and how you guys view it from OpenLedger, right? Like there are obviously large platforms that have a lot of this kind of like AI usage. It's quite different from crypto usage though. How are you seeing it on your end? And then we can kind of tie these two ideas of thought together into kind of combining these two industries.
Yeah, I think AI has been predominantly very generic in the last 2 years. If you take a look at ChatGPT, right, it's more of an app which is predominantly used by people to ask very generic questions. Lately, if you take a look at it over the last 6 months to a year, we've seen people actually use for products, actually use for productivity. And it's slowly getting into almost every other part of our life, right? It could be personal and professional life as well. We've started optimizing our hiring process because, if we could have AI do that, we pretty much wouldn't want to hire someone for that, right? So I guess that's the momentum we are trying to see. We all want to see that. It's not that people are going to lose jobs. People are going to be having better jobs to do. But I think this enables AI to become much more broader than just asking about, where do I get the best sushi, right? So I think now we are at a stage where, like how Google search started, Google search was very generic and internet was born. People started using the internet. And then we also wanted to figure out, okay, how can we use a search for finding a job, which is LinkedIn? How can we use search for finding content, which is like YouTube and stuff like that? How can you use search for like food and stuff? So I think very similarly, AI is getting into that phase where it's becoming much more specialized, where we're building AI for very specific use cases real life use cases, and that's what we want to solve as well. Just ChatGPT and any other AI applications out there, they would be there. They think of them to be like an OS, and which is like the predominant place where you would find most interactions. But you would also find very similar specific apps for a particular use case, which are going to be like specialized models. And that's what we want to enable. We want to enable people to bring in their own data, figure out unique use cases, and build like models for it. Like in fact, when we were talking to Trust Wallet, right? When we spoke to the team, they were trying to explore integrating AI into their wallet experience, and the biggest problem they had was that they could not use ChatGPT or any other generic AI as it is. It is not really providing the solution that they required, right? That's one of the reasons where we had a conversation with them, and then we understood that there is need for a specialized model to be built. Like this, like every specific use cases that we take a look at it, we can't use a generic AI model as it is. We would need to customize it for our own need, and we provide an protocol and an application for people to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of keep having this thought coming back to this idea of chain abstraction and application abstraction really just being oriented around users using some sort of specialized model under the hood of this kind of AI assistant per se, able to interact on chain on the user's behalf, kind of on behalf of their intent or their desire. Is this like kind of what we think is going to be the future of some of these wallet interfaces like Trust Wallet? Is it going to be possible to be able to have an application like Trust Wallet and be able to utilize all these different DeFi primitives and things that you'd want to do on chain just by using kind of like a natural language model? Or is that a far-fetched thought?
I think it depends on the users, really, because ultimately, as a user interface, we adapted to what the users want. So if users want, and then I actually see quite a lot of the experiments on the market already that try to have a chat interface. And then the real interesting question is that the adoption may still be slow, because when people are already familiar with a user interface, like, here's where I click the button, that's faster for me than if I have to go into another chat interface. But who knows, maybe the next generation of the new users will find that way more helpful, because that's easier to onboard compared to the traditional analog interface that they might still not getting familiar with. I think that so then from product builder perspective, what are we going to do? I think the key is to leave room for experiments and see how that plays out. And that's what we're planning to do, and that's why we're working with Ram's team, potentially how to do those experiments in an effective and efficient way, so that we can learn more, we can learn users more, and we can evolve with the users a bit better. So that's on the user interface part. But then AI can be used below the interface level, such as what you're talking about, right? Like AI can do a much better job when analyzing all the data online or on chain. If we give them the access to or empower them to, they probably can find the better DeFi strategy than what you usually are integrating with. Then can they be the workers behind the scene that actually do those work, and then just presented it in a way that however humans will love it to read? I think that's highly likely possible. And you will couple with other kind of tech infra to enable them to do this effectively and efficiently. But at the same time, we're also working on some of the solutions that doesn't necessarily require AI to do the same thing, that can also do the auto balancing, finding the better solutions of the yield if it's available on the network that we're supported. So we will explore the how, like AI is a how. Other solutions, backend, smart contract is also a how solutions. Ultimately, it will just coming down to be whichever approach are preferred by the users and give the best performance as an example. We're in this transitional phase, and that's the most interesting part, right? See how the users and how the industries and the society evolve with it. Maybe at the end of the day, it's going to be an agentic society that, AI agent does the most of the job, but not yet. So how do we get to this? And how does the process look like is one of the fun journey I feel that we have right now.
And I also feel like I don't think this chat interface will be the way for AI like forever, right? Like if you take a look at it, I think even Andre spoke about this. It started with like terminals, like when initially PC era started, we were all interfacing on the PC using a terminal. That's how AI is today, right? It sort of feels like a terminal where you talk to it and then it gives you solutions. I think that will evolve. It will become much more GUI driven, and we would see UI being optimized using AI, right? So I think for wallet, it would start with chat interface as we discuss here, but it also eventually evolve into much better use cases. And there are two major use cases we all think, right? Onboarding the normies, where you provide them with a better interface so that normies can access wallets. And then the other way is basically how can we enable better usage for the existing users? Like how can we stop phishing? How can you, like I've seen like even today, like there are people who send tokens to the wrong network, right? How can that be stopped using AI? So these are like very simple use cases which can be solved first, which could save millions and billions in dollars. And then probably we get into the onboarding normies and stuff like that.
And Ram, are there specialized models that are required to be able to fulfill some of these crypto specific use cases?
So it depends on the use case, right? So let's say first, usually what people do is like they start with prompt engineering, where they take an existing model, give better prompts, and then you have a model that is built for the prompt that you engineer it with. Like for example, most of AI XBT and all these agents that we initially saw were predominantly prompt engineering, right? And then people started implementing RAG, which is like providing additional knowledge to your model and then providing solution. The last solution usually is like basically fine-tuning the model and making it specialized, right? So it comes down to the use case that is there. If you want to build, let's say, an AI dedicated for swapping, right? So how it can optimize swapping. Obviously, you can't use an existing model there. You might need to optimize the model for this particular use case. And if let's say someone wants to build an AI which is gonna help you lend better and provide you solutions around that, you might be able to. You don't need to use a larger language model itself. You can use a very, very smaller model and then optimize your lending based on that. So it comes down to the use case and how you want to optimize for that use case.
Got it.
And also,
Cool.
it also comes down to the people who deal with it, right? It comes down to actually the developer, what he chooses for, the budget that is there, and stuff like that. So there's a lot of factors into it.
Cool. All right, guys. So kind of moving to one of the important topics that I think that users will want to know about is around some of the security and guardrails when using these kind of AI tools within something like Trust Wallet or just generally on chain. And you've actually recently compared self-custody itself to the Second Amendment around ownership of guns and different types of things in the States. I'm curious, how you're thinking about, wallets coming up with training modes, risk flags, AI guardrails for this kind of next step in terms of integrating AI, to take either to take some sort of ownership of assets to be able to use them on users' behalf. Just, trying to curious how you're thinking about these two worlds of the importance of self-custody combining with wanting to get users a really solid, best yields, great experience using these AI tools. How do you think about this from a security perspective for Trust Wallet?
Yeah, great question. So if I may go back to the gun analogy, right? Like, so
I had to bring it up.
Yeah, like self-custody is not easy for a lot of people. If you wanted to have pure self-custody, right? Like it comes with huge responsibilities. And then many people, to be honest, in this modern world doesn't know how to take responsibility. And in those cases, I would say that like, just like some people that they might not be able to handle the gun very well, it's like, just don't do it. So it's not for everybody, but then it may be helpful in some extreme cases and really protect people. Then what does self-custody mean? I think it always needs to give people a way out, right? Go back to the first principle is that no one else can move the money for you except for that you're fully in control of your own fund. So the key is for us to make sure that self-custody as a custody solutions will always be available for people. But then there are additional services, feature services on top of it that people may opt in to use. And then those things are always have a trade-off. How much do you want to have convenience versus security? Of course, from the product builder perspective, we do our best to evaluate security, control codes, operations, all things that can have for people. But for us, the final principle is that users need to make the choice. And I do think that this might come a little bit more tricky or difficult in the age is how much choice and options that users want to delegate to agents or AI to do? And then are they okay with the potential liability if that thing comes to happen? There's always a choice behind the scene, right? So I think ultimately what we can do is that we don't force any options to people, but we make the options very clear as options to people. And personally, I believe that humans still need to learn how to be responsible, because if we completely delegate everything else to everybody, then what's the purpose for you to do anything? But that's going to be a personal choice for a lot of people. But what we need to do best is to present those options and choice to people and make it clear for them, and then helping people, aiding them to make the best choice that they wanted to own in the end. This is a general principle, but specifically on specific product features for AI utilization, I think a lot of the devils might be in the details on how to figuring that out. We will see. I think right now we haven't got challenged too much with it. I think our industry doesn't even have too much of the dilemmas to present to the users at the moment. So we will hold on to the principles that I was talking about, and then evaluating specific option situations as we come along with them.
Innovating finance, global, institutional, and on-chain. Deep liquidity to drive capital efficiency. Now maximize yield on institutional-grade liquid staking with 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵. Unlock $1 trillion of capital via Bitcoin. All of this secured by Mantle's treasury of billions in stables and ETH capital pools. This entire ecosystem is coordinated by a vast network of seasoned VCs that are aiming to create the next generation of banking and financial technology. This is Mantle.
Yeah. Ram, kind of building on that, right? So, you have this need within Trust Wallet to have this very secure way for users to, have optionality to interact with different models or have different preferences for custody, for risk, et cetera. And kind of flipping that back on its head towards the kind of the deeper question here is, how are these models trained? Which models do you use? Which agents do you use? And you've actually recently called AI $1 trillion industry built on unpaid labor, which I assume is around basically all the data that these models have been trained on, scraping the internet, basically going around IP laws, right? All that would come into something that a user at the end of the day who has something like a Trust Wallet, like who uses ChatGPT, ends up being exposed to, whether they like it or not. I'm curious what you think one concrete thing that crypto wallets should do to make this kind of attribution back to this training data real. How should they go about providing this attribution to where these models have been trained on, and kind of how do you think about that from if we're taking what Owyn's saying with regards to her perspective broadly, and then specifically kind of going deeper down the stack to where these models are actually coming from?
I think I remember having this conversation with Eowyn, I think 3-4 months back, right? We were discussing about how wallet is your identity. Like, wallet is your face for you to go across any kind of digital intersections that you have, right? I truly believe that, right? Even like in this case, right, what we want to enable is to make sure that everyone who owns data have to be rewarded. And only way I can get rewarded if I have a digital wallet that will enable me to accept any kind of rewards across the globe. So that's what we want to enable. I think, like as I spoke about, right, there was massive opportunity that was taken away from us. There's so much data that we consumed on the internet, so much data that we provided, which is being scraped by the AI, LLM, large language model that is out there. So much information has been given. We can't do anything about it because internet is free. You can scrape the internet. You don't have to actually reward people, right? But this AI is going to, as we spoke about before, AI is going to be much more specific. AI is going to go into very specific niches where human knowledge, skill, labor would become useful, right? Very similarly, how like when the internet needed content, people who had skill, people who could create videos, people who could write, provided that content on the internet, and they got rewarded. It either by users or they got paid, right? Very similarly in AI, we need to have an interface where if you have knowledge, you can basically infer to that knowledge, right? Basically, what you can do is basically you can contribute your knowledge and you should get paid for it. That's the thesis that we want to drive, because where would you get the knowledge? Like if today, Scale has been invested about $14 billion by Meta. And the reason for that is because Scale is getting into proprietary data sets, right? They're the ones who actually label all internet data sets. That's why large language models today exist, because there was better data to get access to. Now, Scale is working on proprietary data sets, and all of the AI companies need access to that. And what better way to do that is to go ahead and acquire them. Very similarly, I think if Scale is going to do that in a centralized manner, it's going to probably collect data from you and then reward you once. We want to provide a platform where you can contribute your data and constantly get rewarded, like how it happened on the internet, right? Even though internet was supposed to be decentralized, it did not happen, but it was at least a two-way street. You contribute something, you're going to get benefited for that. AI is not like that. It's not a two-way street, right? You contribute, you don't get anything rewarded for that, right? So we want to change that. We want to make sure that people, if they contribute, let's say any kind of knowledge, it could be, Andy knowing about Web3, what really happened in the last 6+7 years that you were in the industry, how you saw the industry from your eyes, how you saw about crypto sentiment, right? You could contribute that to a model. Someone who has been a developer, let's say a Solidity developer, could contribute his knowledge about Solidity to a model. So he needs to get rewarded for that, right? Only his knowledge should not be taken. He needs to be part of the process. He needs to be part of the revenue that comes in. It's not about getting paid once. You have to be constantly getting paid, because your knowledge is being constantly used, and it's being made to improvise the model. It's being made to give an inference and output to, let's say, someone asking question to an AI model. So every time that AI makes a revenue, you should be part of it, because your knowledge is what made it possible. Like it's very similar to like how humans work, right? We've learned so much, but we never kind of like reward for the knowledge that we got. But AI is not like that. It's getting its knowledge from the people that we have. So that has to change. That's our overall idea. If you take a look at Hugging Face, which is one of the largest platforms out there, which has humongous of data and models out there, is not really making much bigger change, because 90% of the data set that is there is useless, right? Because no one gets rewarded. It's just open source contribution. Open source is great, but it has to be monetized. That's what we want to enable. We want to have better contributions to AI, so that better models can be built. If better models are built, then you get paid than just be providing like a free source. So that's what we believe in, and the interface for that should come from a wallet, right? It cannot be, let's say, myself, let's say as a human, I can, let's say, go contribute. I cannot be paid in fiat if someone is going to use my data and build a model in South Korea, right? The only way to access that is to have a wallet, a crypto wallet, which will enable me to get rewarded from anywhere, whichever part part of the world, right? And I think that's truly what will be like a digital identity for a human, for him to contribute any kind of knowledge. It could be some contribution to an AI model, or it could be a feedback to an AI model. The way he gets rewarded is using tokens, and the interface for that is a wallet. And that's what we believe in, and that's why this protocol enables anyone to just plug in using their wallet, be part of our network, contribute something, and pay it for that.
Got it. Yeah, I mean the economic models of the pre-AI internet have drastically changed in this era of abundant content, abundant ideas, abundant kind of information, and then now, as these worlds of AI and artificial intelligence have started to interact with these incentive mechanisms and kind of crypto and blockchain ways of creating economic value, a lot of the ways that we've thought about building these systems in the past, just 10 years ago, have changed drastically, and so it's going to be quite interesting to kind of watch this continue to unfold. Again, I think a lot of this is going to come down to creating the best, most secure user interface for interacting with crypto, and those who can get verifiability into these models, into what you're interacting with, amongst other kind of core ideas. So, guys, as we come to a wrap, I'm generally just most curious what you guys are most excited about within your current roadmap. What's on the agenda for the next quarter for Trust Wallet, for Open Ledger? What can you share with our audience today that will get them excited about what you guys are building? Download Trust Wallet, participate in Open Ledger. What are you guys cooking for the next couple months into the end of the year? Ram, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, a lot of stuff's happening. We will go probably mainnet as I think when this one goes live.
There we go.
So we are working towards that. We want to enable two aspects to our product, right? One is the data contribution, which is we believe will become a gig economy going forward, how video content creation and any kind of content creation was. There's a huge need for it. We want to enable that. So that's our consumer play, where we want the end consumer to contribute data to OpenLedger and get rewarded for that. On the other side, we would work with a lot of enterprises. We would enable community build models on us. We will also enable enterprises to build models and support them and use that as a way to have people who contribute to OpenLedger get benefited, because these enterprises, if they use your data, they're going to make revenue and you're going to be part of that as well. So one among that is our partnership with Trust Wallet and a couple of other enterprises that we work with, where we enable them to build specialized models. We enable them to implement AI for their solutions. And we want to make sure that whoever contributed to that gets rewarded using our protocol. So that's what we're working on. And we have close to about 20 projects building on us in our community. All of them will go mainnet as we go mainnet as well. Some of our enterprises implementations will also be live as we launch as well. So quite excited, pretty nervous as well.
And on the Trust Wallet side, what are you guys cooking?
Yeah, so I think one of the hottest thing recently is RWA related. And we're one of the major wallets that we have this capital market alliance with Ondo, and also there are a couple of other RWA issuers are working with us. And then we're very excited about it because this is where bridging traditional world with the on-chain world and showcasing how strong our technology can be. And most importantly is that this can leverage our global user accessibility to truly test some of the hypotheses. Are some of the certain markets of the assets are going to be interesting to the other parts of the markets. So we're quite excited about that, to be at the forefront of the industry and then rolling out firsthand when things are available. Then you'll be able to expect that to see in the next 2 to 3 weeks. It may work or it may not work, but this is part of the fun aspect of being one of the first and being on the front line, and then trying to test out some meaningful impact our industry trying to bring to the world. So I was quite looking forward to it.
Guys, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. Congrats on both of your successes, working hard to bring this space forward, the collaboration as well. Stoked on it for you guys. Hope you enjoy the turnaround in the market, the sentiment, and really what I'm most excited about from the whole kind of turnaround is just the embracing of all of these, of stable coins, of tokenized assets, of all these different parts of the crypto stack, where now payments, capital formation, yields, and on-chain trading has gotten to a point now where it's undeniably as good, if not better, than the traditional centralized counterparts. We are making large strides forward, and I think the perception of our space is equally growing in a positive direction, which I think is very, very bullish, more bullish than any price can do for the space. So guys, thanks again, and look forward to syncing up in a couple months again, hopefully, and catching up.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ram.